Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and recently I was lucky enough to take part in just an awesome panel put on by my man Derek Broze of The Conscious Resistance. What a great website. And he also does work with who? The Last American Vagabond, aka Ryan Christian, and he joins us as well on this panel. But wait, there's more. Whitney Webb, all-around research all-star in the mix, and the great, and I do mean the great, James Corbett, as well as his alter ego, Johnny YouTuber, joins us for this panel. Now, unfortunately, this panel on Musk is too spicy for YouTube. In fact, I'm a little hesitant to even play the 17 minutes that I'm going to. We're going to do it anyway. We're going to play those 17 minutes, but at the end of this, there's another 50 plus minutes. And if you want to check that out, it's obviously available via Derek Broze and his websites and links. And then it's also on my Rumble, Rockfin, and the vidcast is over at Podbean. So enjoy this sample and then head over there for the full thing.
Hey everyone, this is Derek Broze, the Conscious Resistance Network, and I am here with a lot of amazing people. And I just want to say real quick before we introduce everybody, we're going to spend about an hour talking about why you shouldn't trust Elon Musk if you happen to. I reached out to everybody here. I know that each of them has done different work talking about Elon Musk. The reason I think this is important as we're in 2023, the beginning of the year, is because there are a lot of people in our spaces and in our communities and people who follow our work who are falling for the Elon Musk deception in one way or another. So I figured we should try to get ahead of that because we've seen this happen before with Donald Trump and other people. Why not try to do our best to spread factual information and maybe plant some seeds of doubts in the minds that are trusting this man? So that's why we're here today. I'm Derek Broze of The Conscious Resistance. Let's go around and get to know everybody real quick before we get started.
I guess I'll jump in. I am Jason Bermas. I do a morning show now, 8 to 10 a.m. Monday through Thursday. Also a documentary filmmaker. I've been talking about Musk, transhumanism, and his military-industrial complex ties, amongst other things, for some time now. Brian, I can't hear you.
You're getting it right there. Always a classic. I'm Ryan Christian from The Last American Vagabond, founder of The Last American Vagabond. This is such an important conversation. I'm glad we're having this. And I definitely think that, all of your work here in this room has helped to guide my perception of this as well. And I think this is, my big thing. I think it's just about the kind of retraining us how to engage in this journalistic practice, like through intermediaries, but obviously the Great Reset and everything else that this ties to and all the inner working pieces. I'm excited to talk about all this with you guys here today. So looking forward to it.
Okay, so hi, I'm Whitney. I have a website. It's unlimitedhangout.com. I also write for Ryan's site. We'll be doing more of that soon. For those that don't know, I've kind of had some time off because I wrote a long book and it broke my brain. But, it's working again to talk about why you should not just not trust at all Elon Musk, but really you shouldn't trust any big tech billionaire, period.
And
probably the broader
I am
theme.
James Corbett of the Corbett Report. But for the purposes of today's conversation, I am Johnny YouTuber. All right, let's crank this up because this is going to be a super boring conversation because we are all on the same page. We all agree Elon Musk is as phony as a $3 bill. Elon Musk is phony as a $3 bill. Don't trust him. So I'm going to be the devil's advocate, and I'm going to argue for Elon Musk in this conversation.
Love it.
Wow.
Hey, that's cool.
That's a wild card.
I actually thought about inviting somebody on here who actually does believe that, but I wasn't sure how brutal that might be. One of our mutual friends out there. So we'll just let James stand in for him.
I'm willing to bet James is going to be more objective with his faking that position than somebody who actually holds it. That's just my opinion. So
all right. Okay. Well, I'm going to just throw it out to you, Jason, because you have done a lot of work in the areas of military contracts, SpaceX. So maybe we could start there and see where it goes.
Yeah, all right, let's first start with the fact that Elon Musk is the #1 defense contractor in the country right now. Now, that's on a multitude of different levels, and that he checks every single Klaus Schwabian box you can imagine. So, just to run through some quick things. During the COVID 1984 nightmare, this guy increased his wealth by over 600%. Okay, he beat out Bezos, Gates, Buffett, Page, Brin, and everybody else. How did he do that? He was sitting there talking about free speech and all this stuff. Well, number one, he was still ramping up Starlink and the Blackjack program, which is the classified Starlink, for space warfare and other maneuvers via the military. But number two, Tesla's not a car company. Okay, it's a propped up government funded organization that also prints up mRNA shots via CureVac. Also with the Optimus robot, which automation is coming. And right now, when I talk about Starlink, the highest concentration of dishes in the world is in Ukraine, where they are also hooking up to what? Ghost and Sidewinder drones. This guy is a cookie cutout and was literally prophesied as what? The man of the year as he pushed the sustainability agenda, a $15,000 trailer pod home. So I don't want to hog up too much space here really quickly, but there are even more examples of this, especially when you get to human brain interfaces and Neuralink, which is DARPA tech from now 50 plus years ago.
I think for me, this is one of the strongest points. I'm just going to say I'll start with specifically from a libertarian perspective, because that's a community that I've associated with over the years, that anybody who considers himself a libertarian or even a conservative, let's say, people who are usually argue against corporate welfare, subsidies, people getting help from the government. It's clear that Musk's just so much of his career, there's good articles out there literally listing all the different subsidies that his companies have gotten from the governments, and obviously the military intelligence connections. I feel like just anybody hearing this who likes Elon Musk for one reason or another, that if you stand anywhere on other grounds about standing against corporate welfare, that should be on principle one reason not to support this person, not even getting into some of the deeper things, just on the principle of his company and their practices and their corporate welfare with the US government. What do you think, Johnny YouTuber?
Okay, yeah, all right. But an oft-repeated libertarian argument is that, look, the government's taking your money anyway, so you should take the money from the government that you can get from them and then use it towards good things. And isn't that what Elon Musk is doing? He's sending us to space. We're going to Mars. And, okay, there's some NASA military things, but that's the ball game you gotta play at that level. But he's using it for good. And let's put it this way, yeah, brain chips. What's the libertarian position on brain chips? If you want a brain chip, should someone come in and be able to stop you from taking one? Of course not. So they should be available if you want to take one. It doesn't mean you have to take one, right? It's just he's making that option available. And how else are we gonna beat the machine takeover other than by joining the machine? I mean, we have to become one with the AI consciousness in order to not be swept under the rug of history. So, look, you don't have to agree with me, but you can't stop him from doing what he's going to do and saving free speech while he's at it.
Let me just jump in on one point, and then people can deconstruct some other ones. This idea that you should just take government money and that you're using it for good is laughable. Once you have this outwardly fascistic partnership and you're working with the Defense Department has no reason, no legal liability to tell you or anybody else the truth. And when you are working with weapon systems, you are using money not to empower but enslave humanity, especially when we're talking about autonomous drone warfare. So that's absolutely ridiculous. By the way, we're not going to Mars. I have the chief scientist at NASA repeating on multiple occasions the first things that will supposedly go to Mars are going to be nanobots that then survey the area. They will bring that information back. They will build a virtual world, and you will be able to visit it, Johnny YouTuber, in this virtual era that they create. So I'm sorry, that is incorrect, sir.
Well, on top of that, I think so. The World Economic Forum overlap and the Great Reset direction with Elon Musk and all the things. Everyone's seen the videos and the comparisons. They're all fantastic points, and it's very relevant. But it always comes down to choice for me, right? As Johnny YouTube is pointing out, well, shouldn't people have a right to make these choices for themselves? And that's kind of what Jason's touching on, is that obviously that's not really the premise here. They're already arguing that this is a moral obligation, that we have to do this, otherwise you're killing grandma, or whatever narrative we're sticking into this. Oops. And I think that's the important part of this, is clearly it's about them. This is an idea being forced upon the people. So those things obviously don't connect. But the bigger thing to me is, obviously there are people that, as YouTube guy is pointing out, that there are people that would want this direction. But the issue is how all of the people right now, in my mind, the biggest current problem that are pushing back against this, largely I would argue in the two left-right paradigm, the right side of the argument, are right now being manipulated with Twitter files, Elon Musk, and the whole thing, in order to get them, and I argue, to go in line with this new direction. And this is something Sam Husseini and I had a conversation about, that he ultimately calls Trump the opposable thumb of the establishment. Not necessarily because Trump's aware that he's being used, but rather that Trump's actions, especially if he doesn't know, are being used to drive people into it. For instance, saying we shouldn't be funding NATO, and now we're funding NATO more than ever in a general sense. And so this is where we see, and we discussed this, and I agree, Elon Musk playing a role in this same way, stepping in as the new Trump 2.0 concept in Twitter. And all these people are kind of rushing in behind it and seeing him as this new savior figure, whether it's just journalism, which is like the current obvious point that's being discussed, or whatever comes next. Because I think we're being trained in a very alarming way to take at face value what's being presented. And I think again, the biggest point is where this all goes. The Great Reset, the overlap, the transhumanism, right? That's where I want to get into when we get there, the Neuralink overlap with the injection research and going all the way back to Charles Lieber and all this stuff that seems to be going in a very alarming direction. There's a lot in that point there, but I think it all comes back to how the illusion of Elon Musk is being used to let all of this happen without people really pushing back against it. At least that's how I see it.
If I may chime in, I would like to put forth a theory. It's just a theory. But I think Elon Musk was sort of chosen long before the Twitter takeover to be sort of a personal savior figure to at least a segment of the population. And I think you can see this in his connection to the Iron Man movies. And I personally have never seen them because I don't really watch new movies. But I think actually not Johnny YouTuber, but James Corbett did a piece on Elon Musk, right? And in there he gets into some of this, talking about how Robert Downey Jr., as part of that movie, modeled his character after Tony Stark, modeled Tony Stark after Elon Musk. And this was made more explicit with his cameo in like the second movie and whatnot. But so Musk is a Pentagon contractor, right? And was at this time. And then the Pentagon had significant contracts with the Iron Man movies, like totaling in the millions of dollars. I think it's very possible that there was some sort of effort here to have, like Jason pointed out, the number one defense contractor be seen as like the guy that's going to save us all, or as like a trustworthy figure that's doing all this innovative, upstarting, game-changing technology. We should trust him because he's like a superhero, right? And that idea of a personal savior, I would argue, is super culturally ingrained in Americans, and it's beyond the United States as well. And that Hollywood is a longtime driver of this stuff. The military, the CIA, all of these organizations interface very intimately with Hollywood as a means of propagandizing the population. And why wouldn't they use Iron Man like that? And why would they want this Musk Iron Man connection and to place like Teslas in the movies and all of this stuff if they didn't want certain people watching that stuff to associate Elon Musk with this cool superhero scientist guy that's doing all this cool stuff, and he's saving the world. Avengers, guys.
Yeah, no,
franchise.
That guy's a schmuck. As someone sent that Elon Musk technocratic huckster episode to John Bush, and on Facebook he said something like, "There's nothing new in here, or nothing I haven't heard before. Therefore, it is just nonsense. Who cares? Whatever." Yeah, Iron Man. That was a decade ago. None of that really matters. The point is, Elon Musk is the cool billionaire. He knows how to troll people on Twitter. and he is saving free speech. I mean, have you guys been reading the Twitter files? Come on.
So let me jump in here again. Have to. I'm sorry, Johnny YouTuber. But you're talking about how this guy is saving free speech. Well, anybody who's following along, even with the regular narrative on all of social media, they weren't making it a secret. They had teamed up with authoritative sources and the World Health Organization that doesn't have our best interests at heart. Number two, we still have no WikiLeaks type dump of any of the information that is out there that, although is good, is extremely limited in its scope, with names like Dan Bongino and Charlie Kirk that literally have millions of dollars behind their brand and product. And that's not to even come down on them, because at least Kirk is talking about transhumanism and but at the same time lauding Musk. You have to let them do something that is already obvious. And let me say this. These are Trojan horse civilian systems that have a plausible deniability circle in what they do. So Twitter still is openly employing former CIA, NSA, and FBI at the highest levels. We have still not seen the algorithm. Narrative management is absolutely still a thing there. And we should see all the documents since its inception and them working with the Department of Defense. And I want Johnny YouTuber to understand, NASA is a part of that Defense Department. And to kind of get into where I want to go, and I want to ask Ryan about this, the aspect of these mRNA shots, again, that were scaled up by Tesla, supposedly this guy's company, and he's got so many. You talked about it, Johnny YouTuber. He's got time to tweet all day, and he's running Tesla, he's running The Boring Company, he's running SpaceX. It's magic. I mean, how's he doing all this? Well, the bio-nano era, according to the chief scientist at NASA from a future strategic warfare document, okay, right here, supposedly they knew in 2001, this is pre-9/11 in July, that bio-nano era would happen in 2020. No matter what you think about the shots, how they're the best thing since breakfast, or the bioweapon come home to roost from DARPA itself, billions of people took them in 2020. The next deal is the virtual era that I'm talking about. And the World Economic Forum, Davos, has essentially partnered with the metaverse. Last year, they had 2 forums on it alone, and it is the new global push. Because, Johnny, we're not going to Mars, but you might think you will if you take a brain chip.
Let me add one thing in real quick. A great conversation here. I popped on screen a moment ago. I'll show it again. This article, I'll put this in the description. If anybody needs to learn more about what Whitney was talking about, the relationship between the Marvel movies and the military, Pentagon. And yeah, I mean, this is a regular kind of relationship. In fact, I cover this in The Pyramid of Power. For anybody who hasn't seen it, thepyramidofpower.net. Chapter 4 is all about the Hollywood military intelligence complex. And this has been going on for some time. So I would ask you, Johnny YouTuber, to really, when you're watching those Marvel movies and you're feeling so great about Elon being there and he's here to save the day, to recognize the relationship that everyone here is pointing out to. Where should we go next? What do you got? What's your other reasons for liking Musk, Johnny YouTuber? Is it his entrepreneurial spirit?
He's single-handedly contributing to the underpopulation problem.
Well, you know what? Let me briefly hit that, and then
contributing to fighting the underpopulation problem. Sorry,
he's got a lot of kids apparently, and some we might not even know about. And he's one of the few people out there that openly discusses the idea that overpopulation is a myth. He's given the bowling ball reference, right? He's also talked about
that. You can't deny it.
I won't deny it. And there's another guy that says the same thing, and it's Ray Kurzweil. Kurzweil says that we've only used 95% of the usable land has not been used, and that basically by 2030, renewables, solar in particular, harnessing only 1/10,000th of that, will be able to distribute the populace wide, give us all the energy we need, and use the quote-unquote metaverse and virtual universe to our advantage. He says that overpopulation is a myth. Everybody else doesn't that's employing Musk, including the people at NASA in this document that actually talk about world population stabilization, the author of which I have in 2011 talking about population control that changes everything. It's also in this document. They also talk about taking hold of the genetics, the genomic code of the human species, and directing it in any way they want to. And when I say they, again, this is NASA. It's the good people at a space agency, supposedly. However, when you look who else is involved in this document, Musk has kind of echoed the same thing. When you start augmenting human beings with supposed AI hookups, who's writing the AI? Garbage in, garbage out. I would encourage people to go check out The Limits of Growth by the Club of Rome. No matter what data they put in, it was population collapse. But they still want to invoke this idea that we're destroying the planet. NASA very much behind that as well. And that's the excuse to bring us in from the bio-nano era that they've started in. Once again, everybody, I want to thank you for joining me for this sample. Again, another 50 minutes on this conversation with some of the biggest, heaviest hitters that I respect in the alternative media. Really, the who's who. It was awesome. I want to thank Derek Broze one more time. We love having him as a guest on Reality Rants. Guys, clearly not a left or right issue, a right and wrong issue. So go check it out over the various platforms: Rockfin, Podbean, Rumble, The Conscious Resistance, and we will see you on the flip side.